Hello, Fuse Nation. My name is Alex Fuse, and we have another big show for you right now. I'm on the phone with Adnan Virk, host of the DASZN, and also on MLB Network. So, Adnan, a big weekend for MLB. They just finished their first two games in London. Do you think this past series exceeded expectations for the MLB, or do you think the MLB was just satisfied enough with what happened?
I think it was pretty great, Alex. Great to be with you, by the way. I think that, listen, these are people in England who are used to seeing, 5-day test matches or seeing it 0-0 between Newcastle and Man U. So to be able to have that kind of offense in that game, I thought it was pretty exciting, particularly that Saturday game of the Yankees and Red Sox, all those home runs being hit. Clearly, they felt like Coors Field, I guess, just because the conditions were so right and the fact that the ball was traveling so well. But I think it's smart that Major League Baseball is trying to grow the game a little bit, do it in London, England, and to do it with their two showcase teams. I thought it was a real success.
In this day and age in the MLB, where home runs are almost as regular as base hits, do you feel like this is helping the game or hurting the game?
Well, I think that it helps the game in a broad sense, but it's kind of like pizza. Like after a while, a little too much of it makes you sick, right? Just like chocolate or ice cream, it's best consumed in smaller doses. That doesn't mean I can't polish off an entire Dairy Queen ice cream cake, but you know what? The next day you're paying for it. So I find when you're watching baseball, I love to see a couple of home runs. I mean, if I watch a game and there's no home runs, I feel disappointed. But I don't want to see 8 home runs every single game. And today's game, the way it is now, it's just feast or famine. I think that the way that the game has changed, and I think that maybe there's some of the fact that the ball must be just developed differently, because there's too many times I've seen guys with just not really scoring up the ball and it still travels for a home run, which just doesn't make any sense. I think ultimately there's something going on there with the ball, and just the fact guys have changed their approach with launch angle and focusing on exit velocity. They're just trying to crush home runs every single time. Ultimately, it's better to have more offense than less offense if you're baseball, but I'd like to see a little bit more pace of action rather than pace of play. That's a line from Joe Girardi, who was talking about that thing. People keep saying pace of play. No, it's the pace of action. You just wish the ball was being hit more often rather than just always being strikeouts and walks and home runs. But ultimately, I'll take more offense than less offense to answer your question.
Well, we'll switch gears and bring in the New York Yankees, which is a team that's is all filled of offense, as you saw against the Red Sox. And, this is a Yankee team that has so many power right-handed hitters. And I'm more of a baseball guy that likes to see a more balanced lineup. But with this Yankee team, who can stop them out of the other 29 MLB teams? Is there one team that you feel like 100% can stop the 2019 New York Yankees?
I don't think so with absolute certainty. I mean, I think that since certainly the Dodgers are a very loaded team, I get concerned a little bit about their bullpen, but I do think that the starters are exceptional. The fact that Kershaw, Ryu, and Buehler all made the All-Star team proves how good that team is. The Astros, I think, when they're fully healthy, are a pretty scary team. Although I worry about their pitching after spots 1-2. After Verlander, Cole, Wade Miley is a serious drop-off, at least in my estimation, especially come playoff time. So I think the Astros and the Dodgers can both give the Yankees a real good run. Minnesota, it's a ton of home runs, but I do think the Yankees are a little bit better than them, especially in terms of their offensive depth. And I think if you're a Yankee hater, watch out, because this could be another Yankee dynasty. The way that they've got so much offense, and the fact that Stanton and Judge have been out, and you've got guys like Luke Voigt and Gary Sanchez has reclaimed his power stroke, and Gio Urshela and Gleyber Torres, and Aaron Hicks, and it just goes up and down the lineup. The way that they've got so many guys that can bash the ball, I would be very scared of this Yankees team, the way that they can hit the ball.
We talk about the growth in the MLB, and again, the London series, over 120,000 people in attendance for those two games, and you were born from Toronto, Canada. So do you feel like in the next 10 years we could see a 32-team expansion, one team in Montreal potentially, and then one team in London? Or do you think 10 years is too small of a time?
I'd love to see a team in Montreal again. The strike really killed the team. For years they had a really good fan base there, but the strike killed them because the fans just said, well, why are we going to support a team that in 1994 was the best in baseball, and we never got to see them have a World Series? And of course, the other issue is that the Big O, that stadium is highly outdated and clearly in need of reconstruction. So I just couldn't see baseball in Montreal working unless they had a better stadium. If there was a nice downtown stadium, retractable roofs, that kind of thing, that would work a lot better. I wouldn't want to see baseball unless they got a new stadium. And I'm sure the fans would be so upset. They would be very cautious about allowing taxpayers to sign off on a big deal after what they went through losing the team. But listen, when I looked to see it as a Canadian, absolutely. I've been in Toronto. I was born there, and I grew up in Kingston, which is a few hours away, which is between Toronto and Montreal. So I have fond memories of both the Blue Jays and the Expos growing up. So I'd love to see more baseball in Canada.
Do you think it would work if the Rays moved to Montreal halfway through?
No, I think it's an insane idea, Alex. It really makes no sense to me. I mean, think about it in terms of families and perspectives. You'd have basically an extended spring training. You go to spring training, and then all of a sudden you'd be there for half of the season, and all of a sudden have to uproot your family and go move to Montreal. Let's suppose you're from Omaha. Well, then you're in Omaha the rest of the offseason. So you're living in 3 different places. I couldn't imagine any free agent would ever want to start with Tampa/Montreal. It would be such a terrible environment. And by the way, 2 terrible stadiums with the Trop and with the Big O. So, and again, I don't think Montreal would agree to having a new stadium because the Olympic Stadium is just so outdated. So why would you want to build a new stadium if you're only going to get 41 home games? So I credit Tampa for thinking of something different, but you know what? Their ownership, they've got at least there. They're ironclad. I really can't see anything happening there. I can't see the Players Association agreeing to it either.
We'll switch gears and move on to the Boston Red Sox, another team in that American League East Division. The Boston Red Sox came out yesterday talking about Nathan Eovaldi, and when he comes back, he's going to close for the Red Sox. Do you think this is desperation mode or urgency mode for the Red Sox here?
I think it's urgency now. I mean, listen, Alex Cora is a good buddy of mine. He's been working with him. He's a great guy, great manager. And I like the fact he was so candid. He said, right now, in terms of the Yankees, they're a lot better than us. And that's clearly the case. Boston only, a few games over 500. Their bullpen was just shambles the last 5 of the last 7 games. ERA at 9.94 going into yesterday, so they've got to be a lot better. And I think they should be. I mean, Devers, I think, should have made the All-Star team. They've got so much talent in that lineup. It's been a little bit surprising that they've been so disappointing. But, they're 11 games out. If they can put together a little stretch, I don't think they're catching the Yankees. If the Yankees are clearly a better team, but if they can make some improvements and just have players play to their capability, and Boston should at least be in the mix for a wild card spot. It'll be Boston, Tampa, Cleveland, and Texas. Those are my 4 teams that I think. Maybe even the Oakland Athletics. Those will be 5 teams fighting for 2 spots the last 3 months of the season.
What's it like for you covering the Yankees and the Red Sox, especially now you've worked with both Cora and Boone during your time at ESPN?
Both those guys are fantastic. I mean, it's funny. They're different personalities, but both great guys. I worked with Alex at the time because we would work together on the late baseball tonights. We'd spend late out games. He was always so smart, so analytical, and so generous when he'd buy empanadas for the entire crew, which was always fun. And Boone's a great guy also, does incredible impressions. He's really funny, very laid back. You could ask him any question on the air, and he'd be prepared. Both those guys never held back. They had no issues being critical of other players, and I always knew both of them would be great managers. I was thrilled that it happened, thrilled that it's 2 of the biggest teams in baseball. I mean, I don't think I ever predicted that, but I knew both of those guys would work in baseball in some front office capacity. And clearly, New York and Boston, I mean, listen, Cora won them a World Series. I think Aaron Boone could do that for the Yankees. Those have been tremendous hires for both those teams, and I'm thrilled for them both personally and professionally.
You work with Joe Girardi over at MLB Network now, and I think it's kind of foolish that Joe Girardi does not have a manager spot. And again, he's done a phenomenal job doing the analysts and the NL stuff, and especially during the draft time for the MLB. But do you feel like, Joe Girardi will get another shot and manage another baseball team in the near future?
I think so. I mean, listen, Joe is such a talented guy. Track record. We've had him on our show, Change Up on the Zone, a couple of times, and I think he's funnier than you might think. He's warmer than you might think. He's obviously very smart, analytical, which I would have expected. But I've been just refreshed by the caliber of his talent, and I think he's a real asset to have for Major League Baseball, at least the MLB Network, and to have him on Changeup. But I don't think there's any doubt a guy like him with his skill set, his talent, he'll definitely get a job back in baseball. It's just a matter of which one he wants to do.
We'll switch gears, and this is my favorite segment. It's called the Fast 5 Quick Round. So it's just 5 quick questions, and you have as long as time that you want to answer each of them.
Okay, say it. Repeat that again for me, Alex.
Yeah, so it's my favorite segment. It's the Fast 5 Quick Question Round. So it's just 5 quick questions, and then you have however long that you want to answer the questions.
Okay, perfect.
Favorite MLB stadium?
Camden Yards. I think oftentimes people think about PNC, which I've never been to in Pittsburgh. I know it's incredible. Everyone tells you that. I love, I still call it AT&T or Pac Bell in San Francisco. That's a close number 2. Oriole Park at Camden Yards is the perfect balance of retro and nostalgia along with modern amenities. I love that park.
If a college president called you right now and offered you to teach one college class, what class would you want to teach?
Film Studies 101 is an easy one. If it was more specific, I'd focus on gangster films or even specific to film noir films, the 30s and 40s. If you want to go really specific, I'd just say the films of Martin Scorsese. I could do that all day.
If you could pick anyone dead or alive in the sports world and have lunch with them and the whole conversation be off the record and you can ask them anything you want, who would you pick?
Well, that'd be a good one with guys like Pete Rose or Joe Jackson. That's where the bodies are buried and what exactly their mindset was. But to me, there's no bigger athlete ever than Muhammad Ali. I mean, I would just love to ask him anything about life, the way he changed the world. Ali to me is a gigantic figure, of course, in sports.
What's your go-to snack while covering a late story or breaking story?
I love Milk Duds. I'm a huge fan of those. I mean, they're not great for your teeth. I got to be careful now as I'm into my early 40s. So the caramel and the chocolate, not great for you. But I also love popcorners. Those are really good, really tasty. Popcorners, they're relatively healthy, so those have been a good snack for me.
Do you do any impressions of anyone that you've worked with throughout your time?
I do a couple. I was on my buddy James Duffy's podcast, Remember Boots podcast back in Canada. It's mainly coworkers we worked with. There's a sportscaster named Darren Detishin and Rod Smith. I used to do impressions of both those guys. I kind of shelved that when I got to Houston. I realized, they may not go well if I'm doing a Trey Wingo impression or something. But yes, I'm pretty good at them when I get my chance to do it.
Last question. This is what I always like to ask a baseball fan and as someone that just loves the sport as well. If a 16-year-old kid came up to you and they told you that they don't understand baseball and it's boring, what would you say to them?
I'd say that only boring people say that. I think people are actually smart and intelligent and do the thinking for themselves, realize how great baseball is. It's not passive listening. You got to be an active listener and an active watcher. You have to think along with the game and say, okay, what pitch is coming here? What at bat should be next? How would I change the lineup here? Where should I shift my players, etc.? I think if you're a smart thinking person's fan, baseball is never boring. I think that's just boring minds.
Well, thank you again, Adnan, for coming on my show today. So where can the Fuse Nation follow you on Twitter and watch your newest show?
Yeah, of course. You can check out Change Up on DAZN, DAZN. That is our streaming service, which originates out of London, making some inroads here in America now. We've got boxing for all the major fights. You get Bellator, and of course, that baseball show, which is Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., and the weekends as well, 10 p.m. to midnight. And, of course, check out my podcast, Cinephile, as you referenced, Alex. I'm a big movie fan. So check out Cinephile, CINEPHILE, and the GM Shuffle with my man, Michael Lombardi. Both of those are available on TV13. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and all the rest.
Well, Adnan, it was a pleasure for you joining my podcast today, and I greatly appreciate talking with you.
All right, thank you, Alex. All the best, buddy.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the one and only Adnan Virk here, we covered a lot about London making progress in the MLB as well. And Fuse Nation, it's been a pleasure joining with you 2 times today. Earlier today with Tim Kirshen, now with Adnan Virk. And boy, oh boy, the next show is in 2 weeks, and it's going to be one of the biggest ones. Adam Schefter, NFL Insider, joining us live from ESPN next in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that one, everyone. Well, Fuse Nation, thank you for listening, and I will be seeing you very soon. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at AlexFuse. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your night.